Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan Qasim. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Hey, I am Katie Woelfel. I'm the owner of Total Marketing and Doodroppers. We are a boutique agency based out of Austin for total marketing, and Doodroppers is a full cycle training, inventory, and scheduling platform for field marketers.
So I'm just curious in terms of like your background, like how did you get into this space in the first place?
Oh my gosh. So I got into this space probably almost 2 decades ago. It was when I was in college. I did a lot of side hustling and I was just working a lot of promotions. So I had a lot of on-premise activations and a lot of off-premise activations for spirits brands. And then it sort of evolved into working with more brands, more agencies. And then after moving to Austin, starting my own agency.
So yeah, back when you were at UWM, you were doing activations in Milwaukee, essentially, right?
Yes. It was very flexible with the class schedule, good fast money. And I just loved promoting good products. I worked with some really good spirits brands. And so I was actually enthusiastic about sharing those products with other people and not even just during the activation, but bringing them home. And so I think that passion just kind of translated. And I also worked for really great agencies up there. So that was also a jump off point to getting here.
So I guess in terms of now, right? Because you have the agency and now you have like your new product, Doodroppers. I'm curious in terms of like what you do with the agency, like the type of brands that you help and kind of how you saw this problem that you're solving now with Doodroppers.
Yeah, totally. So right now I work with a lot of spirits brands and non-alcoholic. We have had some snack brands as well, which has been great. But the spirits industry is always booming. So they're always a priority for us. About 10 years ago, I saw there was a need for training specifically in the spirits industry. And so Total Marketing actually created a series of courses. We offer beer, wine, liquor, cannabis, pet, etc. courses for brand ambassadors to take so that they're better in the field and they can have conversations with people. And so over time, I saw that that was great and it was working for my teams and it was really small scale. But a couple of years ago, I realized we need to have better training for actual brands. Like our events weren't elevated. We were wasting time with Zoom calls. We were going over budget because calls were going over budget. And I needed something customizable for people. And so that's what brought us to Doodroppers.
So in terms of like if I have like a spirits brand, right? And if I want to do sampling across different stores, so can you just kind of like dive deeper into how like I would work with you guys to help with this process?
Yes. So it works from the agency side and it also works from the brand side. So if you're on the brand side and you have a team, like for instance, we have a beta tester that is with Goodnight Love and Vodka. She manages the entire state of Texas by herself. So from the ground up, she wanted her staff trained on spirits and then also having training, inventory, and scheduling in one place for her teams. So she did the staffing portion of it, and then she got on the site and she started using each piece one by one to complete the cycle. But if you're on the agency side of things, you can manage campaigns and brands within the platform and have them organized in a way that you can still train them as if they're their own individual company. So it's a very simple process. You can upload your documentation for your team. You can customize the training, whether it's for an event or if it's like a specific event or if it's generally for the brand. And then once everyone's trained for your team, you can manage the inventory that you send to them. So if you're sending out tables, branded tablecloths, signs, or anything like that, everything will be trackable within the platform and you can see in real time who has those assets. And then once you're ready for the scheduling portion, you can see that person is good to go, assign them, and then track it from there.
So, and then like the person who's actually going and doing these demos and they can log in as well and they can like, for example, like if I'm doing demos, I can say, okay, like I'm available Saturday at this time and I can get scheduled based on that, or how does that part of it work?
Yeah, so our platform, because we go on a step-by-step cycle, you can schedule the staff for the actual event. So when they log in there as a brand ambassador or anyone on your team, essentially, if you have a manager who's getting trained or a salesperson, they can see step-by-step what they need. And go through each part of the process. But the scheduling portion is done by the manager. So the manager will log in, assign them, and then they'll be notified, just like they're notified for the training and inventory they're going to receive.
So in terms of like the use case, right? Because you mentioned obviously alcohol and spirits, but are there other verticals that you see this like adding, lots of value, or is it really just like anybody who's sampling? I guess like what does that part of it look like?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question because we just came back from Expo West. We officially launched 2 weeks ago, and our target was actually the booths and the vendors that were there. So even though we had an activation space set up, our team went from booth to booth to booth, talking to founders and agency owners and field marketers, asking them what they needed and what platforms they were using. However, we were very pleasantly surprised to see that the people walking on the trade show floor were highly interested in it, and they weren't even in CPG. So we had pharmaceutical companies, farmers, nonprofit organizations, and other people signing up to do demos because they were curious about the training and inventory piece with the field teams that they have. So no, they're not in CPG. However, they have remote workers that need training, and they also need inventory management. And then, of course, scheduling, which is what everyone needs.
Yeah, for sure. And like in terms of training, right? It's like the training module, that's sort of like documentation, or is it videos? Like if I'm getting trained, how do I kind of get trained through this platform?
Okay. So because it's customizable, we try to have every option that you could think of for training. So we can either upload content that you already have, or you can create it within the platform. So if you want to use the most basic form of communication, you can have text communication. So if you want to type things up, you can do that. If you want to record audio in the platform, you can do that. The fastest way is to upload a PDF file and set everyone to training. But if you want to get customizable, which is the way I personally love to do it, you can create videos within there. You can create videos from your cell phone, or you can screen record. So let's just say you even have a live training that you're doing and you want to keep that, right? You can create the training through videos or the screen recording. So with the screen recording, if you have a live training going on, you just record it and you can upload it. But for someone like me, I like to customize all my videos. So I will go on site to an event or to a store or wherever the event is going to be, actually show them how everything is set up so they have that visual of it. And then also they have a PowerPoint presentation that they go through. And with the presentation, they can either upload audio to it that they record themselves, or if you're in a total pinch, you can use our text-to-speech option, which will read all of the content for them. And then whatever form you choose to use for the training, you can actually do the testing on it as well. So everyone on the site who takes the test is required to pass with 100%. And that's because we want to make sure that everyone has every question answered properly. There's been times where people don't know a couple things, and it's proved to be very important, especially for sales. And so we decided that if you're going to be on the platform, you have to know everything that your manager is requesting you to know. And if you don't have that information, that's okay too, because your manager can reset the attempts for you and you can take it multiple times.
That's awesome. So in terms of like the actual platform, do you have like an AI component? And if not, like, do you see that potentially adding value in the future?
So the only AI feature we have launched right now is the text to speech. So it will read it for you, and you can choose the actual what's the word I'm looking for? You can change not the language, but you can choose the dialect. Okay. So if you want to, if you have let's just say you have a tequila, you can choose a Mexican accent. It can actually be by region, which is pretty cool. We do have other AI features that we're going to be added, but they're not going to be launched for a couple months, so I'm going to wait on them. But they are in relation to the testing portion that will make the testing portion so easy. Because I would say that's the most time-consuming part is, hey, just figuring out what you actually want people to know. And it's probably the most important part, right? So we're trying to hone in on that and make it easier for the user.
For sure. Yeah. I think like the testing on top of that, just to your point, is collecting data, because you have to kind of track like the feedback that you're getting from consumers, like what's selling, what's not, what they're telling you, because otherwise it kind of defeats the purpose of actually doing these activations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The reporting section is highly important. And so with the scheduling piece to the platform, you can customize what questions you want as well. And then we also are adding some AI features in there, which will be launched April 15th.
So I guess in terms of that, right, in terms of like your roadmap, like I'm not sure what you can share or can't share, but just in general, right? Because we're still in Q1, we're about to finish Q1 of 2025. So in terms of your goals, like for the rest of this year, like what are some of the goals that you can share here with our audience?
Goals. Okay. I would say, I mean, my biggest goal is whoever crosses this platform that I'm working with, I want to make sure I give them hands-on service to make sure that we are the platform that works for them. Because as I've been doing these discovery calls, there are so many frustrations that can be fixed so easily. And I want to make this an absolutely great platform for field sales and marketers. And so my biggest goal is customer satisfaction. Obviously, we would love to get a ton of people on the platform, but there's not a number I can give you or that I have in mind. It's
Right.
really just satisfaction and making sure that everyone who uses it is very happy and that they're saving time and money.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think the way that you're doing it is the total correct way because you really want to make sure, especially early on, to get that customer feedback. Because, yeah, if you're not having those conversations, you're not going to know exactly what they need and what they're looking for. So the fact that you're kind of slowly, like, growing, that's having these calls, understanding that, their pain points and challenges, there's definitely so many opportunities there.
Yeah, and that's actually how the inventory piece came into play. So when we had the training, I was happy with it and we had people beta testing it, but I had my developers add an inventory section just to my account. I said, hey, this is something I just want for me. We're going to focus on training. We're not even going to worry about inventory. Well, I was using my live account for these discovery calls and we would go through the training and then I would have customers say, hey, what's that little piece right there? And I'd say, oh, that's the inventory management. And they'd say, oh, let's check that out. And I'd say, oh, it's just for our team. This is how we manage our assets. And what we realized is that's what people really wanted to hone in on. They're like, we don't have anything for our team. And every time I speak to field marketers, I ask them how they're managing their assets. They say Google Sheets. That's it. And I'm like, that's not really tracking it though. Yes, you can look at the history in Google Sheets, but that's not a good, accurate description of where you're actually putting your kits and all the things that you're shipping across the country. And tracking where that money is going and how it's being spent. So we built on the inventory piece. And then once we had the training in inventory, it really just evolved into, well, this is going to complete the cycle. This is everything you need. And the website is not solving just one problem with the training. It's actually solving two problems with the training and the inventory.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out, especially with the inventory management. It's something that you might think that some brands have a software, but at the end of the day, yeah, especially like if they're currently using Google Sheets, that's never a good option for them.
Yeah, it's not great. It's so funny because you think that these brands that have these large investments or these huge agencies that charge 4 times the amount of a small boutique is doing something differently, and they're not. I mean, I've worked for tiny brands and huge agencies, and I can tell you they're being operated the exact same way. They're just being managed by teams differently. And it's just been missing. There has not been a good training or inventory platform since I've started in this industry, and it's just time for it.
No, that's awesome. And that's super exciting. So if you could go back in time to before you started this business, what is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
Before I started this business, biggest piece of advice would probably be just put it out there, just get it started.
Give it
Because
some time.
yeah, because we're making it a great platform and it is a great platform and we're continuing to add features. But looking back from the beginning, we nailed down exactly what you need. And we probably could have helped more people last year if we would have launched sooner to get them the bare minimum, stay organized, to save time, to save money. All of the bells and whistles and features are really great. And there's always someone who's going to want those features, but not everyone is going to want every detail of the website. And so I think if I had started the process over, I would have just said, hey, this is what we have. And it's really great. And we're going to keep growing because we will always continue to grow.
Right. Yeah, that's good advice. And I've heard that before on the show where it's like, okay, just launch sooner, iterate, and get that feedback kind of as you go. And yeah, but there's no perfect way. So it's good that you guys are live now. And like on that note, if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you or to use the platform, do you mind sharing like your website or social media? I guess best ways to get in contact.
Yeah, so the website is doodroppers.com and you can contact me through the website. There you can get a quote. It goes to the sales team, or you can contact me on LinkedIn. Either way, it's going to come back to me in some capacity, but I would say probably the best contact is LinkedIn. And I'm under Katherine Woelfel on there. We are running specials until May 1st. So if anyone is looking to get their teams like really geared up and ready, now is probably the time to do so. And yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Of
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
course.